Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. On today's program, we're talking about breast health. While African American women develop breast cancer at a slightly lower rate than white women, Black women are 40% more likely to die from the disease. There are a variety of reasons for the disparity, including access to life-saving mammograms. In this next hour, we will talk about breast health and how women in one Hampton Roads city are finally getting the help they need. Plus, we'll pay tribute to our Hampton Roads icon, Cecilia C.C. Tucker. It's all coming up next, right after this national, regional, and local news from NPR and WHRO News.
Discussing today's topics from an African American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. We will get to our discussion about women's breast health in just a bit, but we begin today's program with a tribute to an outstanding woman who made a significant difference in the lives of so many here in Hampton Roads, including mine. Cecilia C.C. Tucker passed away this week. C.C. was an incredible champion and ambassador for the cause of inclusion. In fact, she played a significant role in the creation of this very program, Another View. She helped us design the show. Lisa Godley has her story.
Earlier this week, we lost an icon in the Hampton Roads community with the passing of educator, activist, and civic leader Cecilia C.C. Tucker. C.C. grew up during the Jim Crow era. She would go on to study biology at Virginia Union University. It was there where she'd meet the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Back in February of this year, she shared memories of that meeting with Wavy TV 10. During her interview, she displayed a cherished keepsake signed by Dr. King and his wife Coretta. Years later, C.C. would participate in the March on Washington and hear firsthand Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech.
Who knew the I Have a Dream speech, how important it is in our lives today? And all of the things that he had to say are still things that we are looking forward to.
She would live her life modeling the words she heard that day, evolving into a guiding force in civic engagement and civil rights. Her work crossed into many areas, from the field of education to her work with religious institutions and nonprofits, always showing vision and leadership. Early in her career, C.C. taught biology at Booker T. Washington High School in Norfolk. She would go on to serve as an administrator at the Phyllis Wheatley YWCA and on the board of the Hunton YMCA. Throughout her life, Cecilia Tucker focused on equity and inclusion. She was a founding member of the Urban League of Hampton Roads and served as assistant to the president for community relations at Old Dominion University for 31 years.
I went to my president, the person who hired me, and he said, the vision is still the same. We're going to change the image of Old Dominion University, and we're going to make it an institution of all people and for all people. So he gave me a pretty big budget and told me to do what you have to do to get that going. And so we did a number of things over here, including inviting people to every kind of event we had on the campus, every dinner, every reception, every concert, every basketball game. It was like pulling hen's teeth in the beginning because people had a negative feeling about coming to Old Dominion. But after it got going, people would call me and say, can you get me a ticket for this? Or can I get over there for that? Because we treated people well.
Just before her retirement from ODU, Cece got involved with Virginia Wesleyan University, working closely with the university leadership and the President's Council for Inclusive Communities, helping further VWU's institutional action plan. She was a member of Bank Street Baptist Church and Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Depending on who you talk to, words like mentor, connector, advisor, and bridge builder are often used to describe Cece Tucker. Cecilia Cece Tucker is survived by her family and numerous friends and colleagues across the Hampton Roads region. She will truly be missed. For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
Now, visitation with the Tucker family is scheduled for Friday, August the 8th from 6 until 8 p.m. at Bank Street Memorial Baptist Church. That's located on Chesapeake Boulevard in Norfolk. And the homegoing service will be Saturday, August the 9th at 11 a.m. at the Big Blue Room at Chartway Arena, directly across the street from Old Dominion University. On behalf of the Another View crew, we extend our deepest condolences to the Tucker family and to all who love Cece. We'll be right back. And welcome back. So when was the last time you had a mammogram? How far did you have to travel? Until recently, women in Portsmouth had to leave the city to get this life-saving screening. Now they can visit the Bon Secours Portsmouth Women's Imaging Center. And here to tell us about it and what we should do for our breast health is Elena Johnson. She is Director of Imaging Services, Hampton Roads with Bon Secours. Hi, Elena. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing well.
Good. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
And also joining me is my co-host and the hardest working cardiologist I know, Dr. Keith Newby, who also serves as Market Director, Community Health Improvement and Engagement, also with Bon Secours. Like I said, the hardest working man in medicine.
Yeah, I don't know if I can debate that anymore. I think I may have to agree with you there. But it's all good. It's all for our people. So.
Absolutely. Welcome.
Thank you.
And before we go on, I know that you knew Cece personally
very
as well as I did.
Very well.
And so I wanted to give you some time to say a few words if you'd like.
Well, she was interesting, very, very immaculate in her dress attire.
Yes.
She used to always make me
And
laugh.
that beautiful hair.
Yeah, I know. She would always, anytime I would see her outside of, if we were at an event, or she'd say, well, I have to get my hair done right first before I come here. But she was just, she was just an immaculate person, period. Just her intellect, her community engagement work, her caring of people, regardless of any other issue, always came out. And it's interesting. Her husband, was a doctor, and he was in the era of my father, so they were actually friends.
Oh.
So I got to know her since I was just a little guy through that family connection. So when her, of course, my father died really young at 41. Her husband died. I don't remember how long ago. It's been a few years. But we kept the family connection going. So I had a deeper connection with her other than just, seeing what she would do in the community. So, but just a stellar person, just a delightful young lady, and just one who would always do anything she could to help somebody else.
Absolutely.
You could not say anything other than that about her.
Well, she was a part of the, when Another View started, before it became a show, we invited about 100 leaders from across Hampton Roads to come in, and about 60 people showed up to help us create this show, and she was one of them. And she really was very supportive, helping us find guests, helping us to work through, how we should do the show. And this is when we started on television, and then when we transitioned to radio, she was right there.
I'm not surprised to hear that at all.
Absolutely. So let's talk about breast cancer. So Portsmouth now, it's the smallest city among the 7 in Hampton Roads. It has a majority Black population. It also has the highest rate of death from breast cancer in Black women than any other city in Hampton Roads, and it's among the highest in Virginia. And the same holds true for prostate cancer in Black men from Portsmouth. What's going on, Elena, in Portsmouth?
Yeah, well, I think a big part of it has been access. So we know that when people can get to a location to provide care that is convenient and timely, it affects their outcomes. And so prior to the opening of the new Women's Imaging Center in Portsmouth, there was no dedicated women's imaging site of care in the city. And you know how our geography is here in Hampton Roads.
Yeah.
If you want to get from one city to the next, you're having to go over bridges or through tunnels. That costs.
And I'm sure once the tolls went on the tunnels,
yes.
that became even more of a barrier.
As well as time. I mean, we're not a large region, but, you know, traffic and accidents, it takes time, and that takes away from a woman's ability to work, to care for her family, to enjoy her life. And so when we have those barriers, people won't go get care. And so it's important that we are offering care in the community where people are and making it convenient for them.
So let's talk about the Women's Imaging Center for a
Yes.
minute, because you all deliberately took a look at what was happening in this community and decided that this is what you needed to do. But what were some of the things that you thought about? Like, one thing that comes to my mind immediately is that you put it on a public transportation route.
That's correct.
You know, so tell me some of the other things that were important to you and to your team in terms of developing this center so that it would be helpful for women.
Yeah,
particularly in
location was a big factor. Having access to that public transportation line. So transportation is a huge barrier for people for access. I do have to give credit to our market president, Pat Davis-Hagan. So when she assumed her role here in Hampton Roads a few years ago and heard that there was no Women's Imaging Center in Portsmouth, she was really the key player in bringing that service to the community. So it's a great location. It's located right on Portsmouth Boulevard, so 5600. A key factor in determining location is also, a mammogram is a quick exam, right? So we want it to be convenient for you to go to that location, but also be able to continue your day. So we're right next to a grocery store. So located in an area where, coming to see us can really fit into your day-to-day lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. And so weren't there some other things you guys did internally in the center itself to make it more comfortable for women?
Yes. So it's really designed with women in mind. A lot of people associate breast cancer with the color pink, right? Mm-hmm. But for some people that can be a little depressing. I think we all know someone who's been affected by breast cancer. And so we really designed the space to be calming. We have pink elements in the center because we do want to honor our breast cancer survivors and warriors, but also, our waiting room has a TV in it. We have elements of blues and grays and tan. So we don't want you to come in and just feel like you're surrounded by breast cancer, right? You're surrounded by, just a warm environment.
Right.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I think when you think about it, you look at the stats, those stats you gave when we first started. That was probably the foremost thing that you have to say, man, I mean, what is going on here? Why, even though there may not be that big a difference between groups that develop breast cancer, but the survival rates.
Right.
And, I tell you, I was thinking about this last weekend. I did a health fair event at the Mount and in Chesapeake. And you go to some of these health fairs, and the biggest problem I see in our community is participation as it relates to people coming out. And sometimes I ask myself, why is it that we value health so little in our community? We like to avoid topics. We like to avoid these subjects.
Yep.
Yeah, we just don't want to deal with it, but it's not going to go anywhere. So I really emphasize to people all the time. I say, even if you don't necessarily come out to these events, I try my best why I do the stuff I do on Facebook, at times, because people love social media. And you get up there and start really talking about things that are relevant to them. You hope you could touch a life some kind of way. So to hear this was going on, that's why I brought this up as a subject. I thought that just getting this word out to hopefully people will say, okay, there's easy access, they can get to it. Because I tell you, when you look at, I have a lot of people I know growing up with that passed away from breast cancer at 29, or
early ages,
or earlier. And so really being able to identify it quickly and early, and if you're at risk, we talked about this before when we get into these subjects about discussing our family history. If you don't talk about it, people don't know, and people say they don't need to know my business. I said, that's your family.
That's your family, exactly.
I said they need to know,
and knowing that also helps them to determine, your likelihood.
Exactly, that's the
of
whole
being
point.
able to get to get it yourself.
If somebody had breast cancer at a young age, you gotta know, are you one of those, or if you have triple negative breast cancer, that puts you at a high risk for, where your survival might not be as high. You need to find that early.
So what are some of the myths, Elena, that you hear, or some of the stories that you hear from women as to why they don't want to get a mammogram? I mean, I get mine every year, and it's never been a big deal, but I hear some women just trip over.
So one of them, just like Dr. Newby just mentioned, I've heard people say, well, no one in my family's had breast cancer, so I don't need to worry about it. And there is a genetic link to breast cancer, but that's not the only link, right? So it can be environmental factors. Just because someone in your family hasn't had breast cancer doesn't mean you can't develop it. So I think that's one myth too. You have to still get screened and checked out regardless if someone in your family does or doesn't. I think another common myth is the pain. So I hear
pain?
I hear so many women say that it's painful and I don't want to go through that. And, I'm just going to be honest. We do a lot of things that are painful, whether it's piercings or tattoos. Every woman has strutted around a ballroom in heels that were way too painful. Uncomfortable, right?
So paying taxes.
Yeah. A mammogram, it takes about 15 minutes, and that's from the time you check in to the time you're walking out of the door. For us to get a good image of the breast, we do have to compress the breast between two plates. And so there may be a little bit of pain. We all have different pain tolerances, so I don't want to dismiss that, but it's a short amount of time, and it's worth it if it saves a life.
I could probably see someone who maybe has a smaller breast that because of how you have to position yourself in order to get the compression. Right. So I could probably see a little bit of that.
And even in those cases, if we can't get a good image on a mammogram, we can do a breast ultrasound also. So there are some options, but the mammogram really is gold standard.
So what is the difference between, or what is a screening that takes care of dense breasts? Because every time I've gone recently for mammograms, they've talked about that, and so they do a different, I assume, type of screening. But is that something that's just normal now across the board, or does it matter?
Yeah, dense breast is actually pretty common. It doesn't mean that anything's wrong. It's just how God created you. For women who have dense breasts where a mammogram is not optimal, we can do a breast ultrasound, or in some cases we do a breast MRI.
Okay, because I remembered a couple years ago there was a difference, because there was a difference in the insurance. That's why they were asking, do you want a regular mammogram or do you want one that deals with the dense breasts? And so so that's why I was curious about that.
One point to bring up, Elena talked about where people will say, well, I don't have a family history. And I can't emphasize this enough. You know how many times I've had patients come in the office saying they don't have a family history of heart problems. And like, if it's the man, the wife will say, your mom had heart problems. They'll say that, but they don't really always know, because unfortunately in our community, we don't talk. I've seen families go through cancer treatment and never tell anybody they did.
Why is that such a shameful thing for both of you?
I do not have a clue. I think it's just for some reason, the people say it's none of anybody's business what I deal with. I've heard that a time or two. Whether or not that's the real reason, sometimes people feel it's personal. They just don't want to talk about it. But I tell them, I say, but this is the thing that impacts your family potentially, and so you can't take that attitude, because if you don't share that information and you put your family at risk for having it because of geneticism, you have to be mindful of, how that may affect them, because if they don't get screened early, right, and then they develop it, they could pass from that without having the opportunity to be screened early.
Right.
So I can't help but bring that up.
No problem. Go
yeah,
ahead,
I think a interesting fact for Black women is that we are seeing more Black women being diagnosed with breast cancer at earlier ages. So the standard age to get a screening mammogram is the age of 40. Well, that in between space between like 18 and 39, if you're not getting a mammogram, you could have breast cancer and it's not detected for several years. And so a lot of insurance companies will pay for a mammogram at an earlier age. So, between 18 and 39, if you are considered high risk and your family history influences your risk.
You're high risk.
So I think that's also why it's important. And one thing that I say to patients sometimes is, would you have made different decisions if you had known your family's history? And a lot of times the answer is yes. So then give your daughter, your granddaughter, that opportunity by sharing that information.
That's a very, very important point. People, speaking of insurance, do you have to have insurance in order to get screened at your clinic?
So insurance typically is the route that a lot of our patients go. Secours does have a financial assistance program to help in the event that maybe your insurance isn't covering a service, but it's something that a doctor has said you need it. And I'm glad you bring that up, because cost is also a barrier for some people. And we don't do a great job at sharing what the options are. And there are other options. For example, we partner very closely with the American Cancer Society. The Virginia Department of Health has some resources as well. And so, if you are concerned about coverage for the cost, please reach out to us, because there may be some other options out there available.
Brianna from Portsmouth called and she said she was driving, so she didn't want to stay on the phone, but she shared that she has had lumps for a year. She's been trying to get a mammogram for a year, finally got an appointment for September 14th. She's currently on the first call cancellation list, and she says she has friends that are in the same situation. Is it hard in this area to get screening?
I think that there are a lot of options. So we have, Secours has 4 women's imaging centers in Hampton Roads. So if you are willing to travel, you may be able to get an appointment sooner. I think also when you're talking to your scheduler, emphasizing, I want the soonest available appointment, because sometimes, they'll say, okay, well, this is what we have available. I wish I had a better answer. I think that it can be a barrier, but advocate for yourself is what I would say, and be more aggressive. Get on those cancellation lists to try to get in sooner.
There's actually a center in your building, Keith, where your office is located, because that's where I go.
And you'll find that a lot of times it's just lack of knowledge on where those places are. Unfortunately, so, it's not like you could go to one central location and find out all the places you can go to get it, which they did, but I don't know what the American Cancer Society may have. They may have that on their website, somewhere. But I think to be able to do that, but then does everybody have internet access to be able to look and see? A lot of it's just not understanding where to find the information, when you think about it, because they're out there. They may think to just call, Cetera, just call Secours or Chesapeake or wherever you go. But just knowing, depending on your location, what are your options? Some people just don't have that information.
But this is all about preventative care. Because the goal is to find out before you start getting symptoms. But if you start getting symptoms, some things start happening to you. Can you name some of the symptoms, Elena, that you really need to push your either primary care or whomever to get, to go ahead and get your screening and find out what's happening.
Yes. So, of course, if you feel any lumps or bumps, that's a sign. Nipple discharge, hardening of the skin, dimpling of the skin, redness. There is a great website. It's called Know Your Lemons. So if you think about a lemon that you buy from the grocery store, we all know what a normal lemon looks like. We also know when lemons start to get bad, you see dimpling, discoloration, things like that. So think about a normal lemon and an abnormal lemon. So any physical changes that you're seeing, you should reach out to your doctor.
Wow. If you're just joining us, we're talking about breast health with Elena Johnson, Director of Imaging Services, Hampton Roads with Secours, and co-host cardiologist Dr. Keith Newby, who also serves as Market Director, Community Health Improvement and Engagement, also with Secours. Give us a call. Have you gotten your mammogram? Are you afraid to go get one and you need some encouragement? We'd love to hear from you. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. So I went on the African American Breast Cancer Alliance site, and they have a section called Breast Cancer 411, which is basically what is the information you need to know about breast cancer. And I thought you guys would find this interesting. They talked about some myths that people talk about in terms of what they think about breast cancer and how to cure it, okay? So these are myths. Listen, let me say that again. These are myths. Eating apricot pits, eating broccoli by the bushel, shark fins, spinning around in circles with a pot on your head.
You're kidding me, right?
No, I'm dead serious.
So,
here it is. These are myths that people believe will cure naturally breast cancer without...
What you going to do with the shark fin? I'm just asking. I mean,
me.
I don't want to see a shark fin. No comment on that. I mean, I'm gonna tell you some of the.
But my point being, it is because we come up with this stuff, and instead of people going to really find out and treat themselves, because there are other ways that you can take care of yourself, but not put the pot on your head and spin around.
Let me tell you, so that's like you get folks say, put some liniment on it, it'll be fine. You look at it like, what? I mean, that's sometimes could be our interesting community. And one of the things I've run across in the heart world, somebody will say, like you give them, like you talk about medicine. That's always, I always tell joke. Our community thinks medicine is the enemy of the people. Yeah. And I'm like, listen.
Elena is shaking her head.
I
yes.
say, listen, if you, and I tell people all the time, listen, the question is, are you living right? Do you do the things that you're supposed to do that would potentially reduce or eliminate the need for medicine? Are you, are you at fast food joints all the time? You're eating, pork grease or whatever. I mean, just think about, do you exercise? Do you do any of the things that would help you get to a better place? Because the answer is no. It's kind of hard for you to kind of, talk about the dangers of medicine. I don't dismiss that there are potential side effects that, you may have. And the first question people ask me, anytime I'm looking at the blood pressure 200, and they say to me, and I'm saying, okay, we need to get you on medicine. We evaluate this a few times, and it's always continuously high. Let's start, getting you this blood pressure control. The first question, well, what are the side effects? I said, what do you care? I said, your pressure's 200. I said, now, you're not going to die from a side effect of medication, but you will die from that pressure of 200. So you have to think about where are your priorities. And I've had people, you put them on the medicine, they'll go home, talk to some Joe Blow cousin from around the block, and say, he said that this was going to kill me. I said, what does he know? I said, are you kidding me? I said, and that is the where we have to really come to a conclusion. And that's why sometimes things get delayed. If we know there's an issue there, but we ignore a lot of things, because that's the danger of a lot of
And I think a lot of it
conditions
is fear. Is it's not that because they think, well, I don't want to know. And if I don't know, then it will go away. But it won't go away, right?
Well, you'd be surprised. I think you're right, and to a degree, it's just is there's a kind of a mentality that we have that if we ignore it, it just won't exist. So so there is some fear because we don't want to get needled up all the time and all this other thing, and we do think that sometimes if we ignore it, we just don't have to worry about it because of the pain we may have to undergo. But you think about even some of the most simplest things, we don't want to do, but so it's deeper. I believe it's deeper than just that.
Are there diseases that particularly affect the African American community that tend to lead to breast cancer? Like, for instance, obesity or
smoking,
smoking,
things that
that
we
kind
have,
of thing.
habits we do, and obesity is always one. I kind of wonder how much might be environmental, and the reason I say that is because if you look at certain communities, you can actually do zip code evaluations, and you'll see trends in certain neighborhoods of conditions, colon cancer, breast cancer, lung conditions. So I do think there are some environmental issues that impact, that I do believe.
That too?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. We know that weight, a sedentary lifestyle, smoking, they all contribute. And also our genetic makeup. So African American women are more likely to be diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, which is a more aggressive form. So it's a part of our DNA. So we should know that and take action with our lifestyle choices and also with making sure we're getting checked out regularly.
So once you go get your screening and the information comes back, and let's say it's not as positive as you had hoped, and what's the next step?
Yeah, so if you get a screening mammogram and something is seen on the imaging, further imaging is going to be recommended. Generally, it's a diagnostic mammogram, a breast ultrasound, a breast MRI, or even a biopsy, where they're going in, taking a sample of what they see and looking at it more closely under a microscope. Within Bon Secours, we do have nurse navigators. So we call them our buddies for our patients who are going through that diagnostic process. And so that nurse is really going to follow you, make sure you're getting to your next level of care, the next appointments. And if the testing comes back to be positive for cancer, then you're going to meet with one of our surgeons or our oncologists to talk through what the treatment options are.
So will they tell you if you're getting your mammogram? I know that there's a technician in there and they're looking at the screen. I mean, will someone, if they see something, will they tell you right away? Or does a radiologist have to come in and take a look?
Yeah, also? So for a screening mammogram, a radiologist is not looking at it immediately, but our turnaround time for results is about 48 hours.
Okay.
For a diagnostic mammogram, so that is we've seen something on the screening mammogram or you've come in and you have symptoms. A radiologist is going to look at those images before you leave, and you're going to meet with the radiologist to review them. So you will know immediately.
So there's not that wait, that also added stress of waiting for days to find out what's what.
Correct.
757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Jennifer joins us from Chesapeake. Hi, Jennifer. You're on the air.
Hi, Barbara. Hi, Dr. Newby.
How are you?
Hi.
Dr. Jennifer. Great. This is Dr. Jennifer May with Centera. And first, I wanted to just thank you for this important topic this morning. I did not know that there was not a breast center in Portsmouth, and that was a huge gap. And so thank you to Bon Secours for filling that much-needed gap. But I wanted to share that we're actually doing a research study with a new cancer screening test. It's a blood screening test that can test up to 8 to 10 types of cancers in one blood test. That includes breast cancer. Does not mean you should not get your mammogram. Mammograms are still super important, but research is also important to determine, if these tests are good enough to use. And so I wanted to share that with your viewers today. And if anybody's interested, I encourage them to go to virginiacsrn.org to learn more.
Virginia spelled out, VIR. It's Virginia spelled out?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So say the website again.
It's Virginia,
Uh-huh.
CFRN.
CFRN. C is in cat, F is in Frank, R is in Ruby, N is in Nancy.
No, Cancer Screening Research Network.
Ah, okay. Cancer Screens, 3S. S is in Sam. Okay, RN.org.
So I got
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, quick question for you.
Go ahead, Doc.
Is that screening test, is that for who is at risk or you have potentially active cancer?
No, it's for anybody that doesn't currently have cancer. It's a prevention and identification test.
Okay, so it says that you have
Cancer
risk. It identifies those at risk.
It does.
Okay,
and
gotcha.
It actually will identify, if you have little particulates of the tumor floating around in your blood, it will identify that you do, and it'll tell us the top 2 possible tissues of origin, where that cancer is growing.
Okay.
And we're providing this test for free right now with the research study because insurance isn't covering it.
Okay, so just to make sure we're clear, because I want to make sure the audience hears this.
Mm-hmm.
So this test is designed if you have active cancer undiagnosed, then this would potentially pick that up? Or is it both? Or is it both, like, as a means of detecting people at high risk and those who may have active cancer going on?
It would detect if cancer was in your system.
Gotcha.
So
okay. All right. Gotcha.
Okay.
All right.
So I met Dr. May yesterday at a conference, and she was telling me about this study, and they really would like to also they want as many people of as many different ethnicities and races and so forth to participate so that they can make some determinations as to whether or not this is a good test that will help people in the long run. Is that correct, Dr. May?
Absolutely. We want this test to be applicable to everyone.
Okay.
How long is the study going on for? Just so people would know, because I know I'm sure you wouldn't call if it's ending tomorrow, but is it going to be ongoing for a while longer?
Yes, it is.
Okay, wonderful.
So we just started enrolling, and we'll be enrolling for at least a year, possibly 2. We're trying to get 700 people in Hampton Roads.
Okay, wonderful.
So that is Virginia, CSRN.org. And if you go to that website, you can find out more information, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you so much for the call. We appreciate that. So screenings are critical.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we need to be involved in screenings. Absolutely. So when women show up at the center, first of all, have you had people who have never been screened?
We have.
So how did they describe the experience? What did they talk about?
Yeah, I think people are surprised at how quick it is. Because, again, a screening mammogram takes about 15 minutes, and that's from the time you walk in the door till the time you're leaving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And describe for someone who may not, especially for men, who may not know exactly what happens. So you go in and
you
describe
go
what
in,
happens.
you get registered. We'll take you to the back, put you in a gown. The mammo machine, when you walk into the room, you're going to stand in front of the machine. If you do need to sit, we can provide that as well. We typically take 2 images of the breast, one from the top and bottom and one on the sides. You'll kind of lean into the machine, again, compressed between 2 plates. The images probably take 3 minutes or so total. We get you out of the room. You'll dress in your normal clothes and you're out the door.
So the mammogram itself tells you whether or not there are lumps or abnormalities. That's what you're looking for?
Yeah, so we're able to see abnormalities in within the breast tissue.
Within the tissue. But it does not tell you you have stage 4, stage 2, stage 1 cancer. It does not tell you you have a diagnosis.
Correct. So there are a lot of abnormal. When you think about breast tissue, there's a lot within the anatomy, right? So, for example, cysts are pretty common in breasts. That is not a cancer, but that is something abnormal that we would see on an image. And so what the mammogram is looking for is something abnormal. If we see something abnormal, then we do additional tests to find out what exactly that abnormality is.
Now, men can get breast cancer.
Yes, about 1% of all breast cancers are in men.
So can a man come to the Women's Imaging Center?
Yes, we do. We do see a handful of men each year at our women's imaging centers. And we probably should not necessarily call them women's imaging centers, but we are accepting to our men as well. So men do have breast tissue. It's not as prominent, obviously, as in women. Mammograms aren't the standard for men. Typically, we're doing a breast ultrasound because men don't have enough breast tissue to be able to get a clear image.
To do the compression.
Correct.
Yeah. And what's the stigma, Keith, behind that? Behind men getting breast cancer?
Well, that's, because they look at it as a woman's disease, So, men, we're an interesting group of people.
Yes, you are.
I'm not even gonna lie. Now, we could be an interesting group of people, how we view the world. But the thing about just being, it's almost like you think about mental health issues. Men, we have been taught, and I'm a victim of that too. We didn't complain about things. You just handle, as a man, you handle it. So, it's just the way we were brought up, a lot of us, where you deal with things and you just figure it out and you keep it moving.
And you don't talk about it.
Yeah, we don't talk about it. So it's a really an unfortunate reality, but I do think that we need to be more vocal. That's why I like talking about things like this, because the more you talk about it and make it normal to discuss, the more likely men will come into the fold and start to say, okay, maybe I do need to take a look at this. I saw a guy today. I was so proud of him. Before I came here, one of the patients, this guy, he's a patient of my brother as well, but he was just telling me he's got hypertension, some other things, but he said that he went to, they have I forget the name of that center over there, but my brother and my sister-in-law, they teach about health, healthy eating, what have you. Healthy living center is what it's called. I just thought about that. But he was telling me that he went to a couple of the classes and he really got a lot out of it. But he took an ownership in understanding what he needed to do for his best health. And I was so proud to hear him say that, because that's kind of the opposite of what I typically hear. But he said, listen, man, I'm trying to live, and if it takes this, then fine.
And isn't that the key of what we're trying to talk about, Elena?
Oh, yes. Everyone, we want to be here for all the great moments in life, to celebrate with your family, to take that vacation, to finish that degree. And you can't do that if you're not here. And I think that's what, that's the underlying theme of this conversation, is taking care of yourself so that you can experience and enjoy life.
Okay, let's talk to Ben in Hampton. Hi, Ben. You're on the air.
Hi, thanks for the great show.
Thank you.
I think it's important to point out that diet can play a large role in the occurrence of breast cancer and also in recovery. So studies have shown, and you go to Google Scholar and look this up, that those women that eat a whole food, plant-based, vegan diet tend to have significantly lower occurrences of breast cancer and much better efficacy in recovery. In particular, the branched-chain amino acids, which are more common in animal proteins, seem to stimulate the growth of cancer.
So diet and exercise. Let me let the experts respond to you, Ben. Thanks for the call.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I think he's actually accurate with that. There have been studies that have shown that. In fact, I get my wife Peggy up here. She'll be all over that one. She has advocated for that in changing diet, because she's done the background research on that. It's been shown that but it goes back to what I talked about earlier: environmental conditions, what we eat, how we live, all those things impact on our outcomes. And you think about the amount of ultra-processed foods we eat, because they're cheap to produce, but the long-term effects can be quite negative. You just have to be careful when you do that. Make sure it's a true plant-based diet if you're doing that, because sometimes they some of these companies have gotten into this thing of marketing their so-called plant-based diets. It's not really that. I think if you really look at it, just go back to au naturel, grow it yourself if you can. You'd be surprised, what you get out these stores. Sometimes you just don't know. But just be careful with that. And one of the things I learned from Peggy, she would bring up this issue of when you look at the label, how many things are in it. And she said, if there's more than a few things on that label,
or if there are words in there that you can't pronounce,
so that can impact as well. So I always caution people, and she always, when she goes to the grocery store, shop the perimeter. Perimeter, when you start going into the middle, that's where you get all the ultra-processed stuff. But if you shop the perimeter, characteristically, most grocery stores will have the perimeter things that are more natural, organic, and whole, not the ultra-processed items.
So, Elena, I know that people can come from all over to the center at Portsmouth or wherever you guys have centers, but are you reaching the women in Portsmouth that this kind of was designed for?
We are. So some of the things that we're doing is partnering with organizations in Portsmouth that the people in Portsmouth have that established relationship with, so that we're getting the message out. So, for example, the health department in Portsmouth, there's a coalition, the Healthy Portsmouth Coalition. They have been a great partner with us in getting referrals out. So we are doing our best to really get the word out. And then forums like this help us also to reach people so that they know the center exists and there's an option for them.
So I hear about the caravan, the different mobile mammograms and so forth. Do people take advantage of that?
They do. So we have a few, not within Secours, but I know some other organizations in Hampton Roads have mobile mammo vans, and they're very popular, very convenient as well. Secours is working to get a mobile mammo van in the market in 2026. So that's an exciting project that I'm helping to work on. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, it's the same technology that you'll see in a brick and mortar center, but it's just out in the community.
Are there any changes from the time, I don't know how long you've been in this imaging world, but what are the changes that you notice in terms of the technology?
Oh, yes. The technology, it just continues to get better. I mean, typically every 3 to 5 years, depending on the type of equipment we're using, we see new variations and new versions. One thing, I'm glad you brought up the technology because within imaging, there's also talk about radiation, right? So over the years, over the decades, the equipment has just gotten so much more advanced that the amount of radiation that's given off by these machines just continues to decrease. So very low levels of radiation.
So that's a myth also that people need to be aware of, right? That the machine, the mammogram itself is not going to give you breast cancer.
That is correct. And I think too, just knowing that radiation is all around us, right? So even the sun gives off radiation. So when you're out at the pool over the summer, you're getting low levels of radiation, right? So it is naturally occurring. And again, within the medical world, the technology is just wonderful these days. So very low levels of radiation typically.
Okay, let me see if I can get one more call in. We only got a few more minutes left. Linda is joining us from Portsmouth. Hi, Linda. You're in the air.
Hi. I was diagnosed with a mammogram in 2017, and or at least I was screened, and then my doctor found breast cancer on my left side. He checked my right side, but I found out later that doctors are not required to check the other breast. It's not part of their protocols. That seems bad, and I want to know why. Is there a reason?
When you say their protocol is only to check one breast, I've never heard that before. You talking about in terms of the mammogram itself, or are you talking about just in the examination?
The mammogram found breast cancer on my left side, and the doctor went on and did further an MRI with that.
But did not look at your right side.
but they did not look. And my doctor did, and he found cancer on my right.
Okay.
But they are not required to check the other side at that point, and that seems silly.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't. I mean, to me, because a lot of people have unilateral breast cancer, so maybe on one side, not the other. I mean, I would think just common practice should always be to check both sides. I mean, I'm not. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, so that's correct. I mean, a general mammogram is you're looking at both breasts, but if they find something in one breast, they're going to continue on with diagnosing and treating that breast. But you should have a doctor that is following up and checking the other side as well. So kudos to your doctor. But I think also advocating for yourself. I know I've said that a few times, but you are also able to say, no, I really would like to get the other side looked at as well.
Yeah. So in the few, 3 minutes left that we have to go, what are some things that you want to say specifically to women about mammograms and why it's so important?
Yeah, I think, women, we typically are the backbone to a lot of things, to our families, our friends, at our jobs. We are strong, we're resilient. We don't always prioritize ourselves, and that's important. Like I said earlier, we want to be around to enjoy those great moments in life, but that means really championing your own health, right? So you can't be there for your kids or your husband more than you're there for yourself. So I would say that. I would also say, women, we typically run in packs. Friendships are important to us. And so, I don't want to dismiss the fact that this is a heavy topic and there is a lot of anxiety around it. Take someone with you. If you're going out shopping on a Saturday, you and your best friend can stop by, get your mammogram before you go out to lunch. So if you are...
So can you walk in?
Oh, yes, we do take walk-ins. So for all of our women's imaging centers, we take walk-ins, and we do have some sites that have Saturday hours as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I thought you always had to have an appointment.
Nope. For a screening mammogram, you can walk in. Now, for other diagnostic tests beyond that, we do require an appointment. But no, just walk right in and come see us.
Wow. All right, Keith, you have the last minute.
Oh, man, I get the last minute. Great. Okay. You caught me off guard on that one. But I will just say this to everybody. I think getting yourself screened, but the best piece of advice I could give you, don't tell people things that you really are not expert to tell them about. If you don't know medicine, stop giving bad advice to people. You want to make sure, get them to a doctor, let the people who have been trained to know how to administer care to those individuals. Because think about it, if you give bad advice and that person goes on to get a cancer or something else, how would you feel about that? So just stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
That's my advice.
Do you have a farmer's market coming up?
Yes. Actually, it's the, hold up, you're jacking me up now.
That's okay.
Hold
look for that while I want to tell the audience also, I've got a couple things that are going on in the community in terms of health fairs and so forth. So I wanted to bring you up to speed on that. You got it?
16th.
The 16th.
Of August.
August 16th.
Yeah, 418 East Butte Street, First Baptist Butte Street parking lot right across from Scope. Thank you.
There you go. You're welcome very much. The Urban League of Hampton Roads Health Team presents Mindful Nutrition. It is on August the 13th, the 20th, and the 27th. August 6th, 13th, 20th, and 27th from 6:30 to 8, and it's all about urban wellness. Now, this is open to all adults, parents, and teens, 16 plus. Free 4-week classes on mental health, nutrition, wellness at Secours Community Health Hub. That's on George Washington Highway in Portsmouth. So check that out. That is coming up. This coming Saturday, August 2nd and 3rd. Yes, that's this coming Saturday and Sunday. There's a free medical clinic in Newport News, and this is being done by Remote Area Medical, and they are doing dental, vision care, medical care, and that is at Bridington Midtown Community Center in Newport News. So go check that out. And next week on our show, it's National Black Philanthropy Month, and we'll talk about the philanthropic impact on the arts in our community. Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Jordan Christie is our audio engineer, and Dr. Barry Graham answered our phones. And also want to say that today is National Intern Day, and so we want to say to India Ray Davis, who's a senior at Hampton University, and Selena Harris, a junior media production major at VCU, our 2 interns. We're so proud of you. We love you. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. See you next week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever, whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.